is rapidly becoming one of our favorite days of the week because there's football.
Seems like a good reason to get excited, right? And it's more preseason games that are on the way. So I know it's not real football, but it counts. It's here. It's something.
Yeah. This is The Sweat, though. He's Adam Kaufman. I'm Jessie Coffield. And we'll spend the next 60 minutes with you and a bunch of other people.
Like, for instance, our football panel. Let's begin with DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler. Fellas, welcome in. Good to see you again. This is NFL Take Your Pick. We're looking at your top picks for each position tonight.
First one, obviously, quarterback. Reed, you have at least a dozen QBs to choose from. Who do you like? No?
That I like.
Oh, there we go. Volume.
Essentially, like Jeff, I like all of the quarterbacks playing. But no, my favorite here is Lamar Jackson. I mentioned it a while back in terms of what he's able to do. I mean, Lamar Jackson is becoming a quarterback highly sought after in season-long fantasy football, but even if you look at this slate, I mean, this guy can clearly do both. If you look at the pre-draft of when he got drafted in the real NFL draft, he was taken in the late first round. If you look at his passes, 150 attempts of rookie quarterbacks drafted in the first round since Peyton Manning, he had a higher yards per average than guys like Mitch Trubisky, guys like Jared Goff, guys who were taken ahead of him in the real draft and even in fantasy football. So when you look at Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to take a huge leap with his passing, and I really like him tonight.
Jeff, who are you looking at for your quarterback?
Let's go with old reliable, Andy Dalton. I mean, the Bengals starters are basically booked to play the first half of the game. Zach Taylor said they're probably not going to play past the half, but it looks very likely like you're going to see a full half of Andy Dalton and a lot of the other Bengals starters. I don't mind playing Lamar Jackson. I mean, the one thing that worries me is you're probably not going to see him run as much in the preseason as you will in the regular season, so it takes away some of his upside. But I do like the Bengals at home. I mean, again, it's the big warm-up here for Andy Dalton. They got to get this new offense going. They're taking on the Giants, too, who are terrible, so that always helps. But I just like this. I mean, there's really no other guaranteed spots. There's no other quarterbacks on the slate slated to play a full game. I'm just going with the veteran who's slated for a full half of football, and Andy Dalton.
Has anyone, even a Bengals fan, ever said, "Oh, reliable Andy Dalton"?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's happened. Jeff's breaking new ground tonight. All right, guys, same questions. Running backs this time around, though. Jeff, let's stay with you here. Favorite pick among the 6 games tonight?
I like Raquel Armstead
of
the Jacksonville Jaguars, 5th-round rookie this year. He hasn't played yet because he's been in concussion protocol. But he's been cleared for this game, and you just look at the Jaguars' depth chart. They have Leonard Fournette, who's probably going to get like 1 series tonight because they got to bubble wrap him. And then Alfred Blue is out. And then behind him, it's just a bunch of wanderers/grifters of the RB world who they don't really need to play. They need to see this rookie in action, Raquel Armstead, because they don't have much depth behind Alfred Blue, who's hurt. So I expect him to get a big workload tonight. I really like the spot. It's basically just a volume play, but I do like the spot for him. I think he's a good pick for this slate.
You have one more shot at his name.
Raquel Armstead.
Yeah, okay.
You have to look at it.
Reed, have you ever heard of this gentleman?
Yeah, Armstead is a
good
good guy. I like him. Raquel, he's one of the guys, right, too. If you're talking about season long, kind of going on both sides here, someone to target later in drafts. Like Jeff mentioned, I think that backfield in Jacksonville is very interesting on what's going to happen. Without being too much of a homer for my Oakland Raiders and seeing Josh Jacobs, they're doing extremely well, averaging 5 yards per carry in preseason. That doesn't really matter. I'm going to stick with the Ravens and Justice Hill. Again, someone that you can get later in season-long fantasy football drafts as a late-round guy. This guy is extremely, extremely explosive, fast, very quick in terms of this change of direction. And this 1-2 punch that they're now getting, especially with Mark Ingram early in the season being sought after as that 3rd down back and potentially getting a 3-down role, which Mark Ingram never has had in his career in the NFL. Now you have a guy like Justice Hill who's climbing up and who's impressing. I know we like to say with Baltimore, it's whichever running back we don't know or we're not talking about, that's the one to go get. But Justice Hill is proving that theory a little bit wrong in terms of what he's proving. And I have to mention something else in the earlier segment. That stat of those rookie quarterbacks is from Warren Sharp. Great guy. Go follow him on Twitter. Amazing stats. But if you're looking at running backs, I like stacking Lamar Jackson and Justice Hill.
Reed says all this while dressed in Raiders colors
Yeah.
for the game tonight.
I had to get it in.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're focused on skill positions, that brings us to wide receivers and a wide open field here, Reed.
Yeah, going with my Raiders, Hunter Renfrow,
Oh, jeez.
the most stacked, most muscular guy in the NFL. No, I mean, this might be a Hard Knocks thing where I'm just watching it too much and buying in on the Hunter Renfrow. But look, this is a typical John Gruden player, right? Hunter Renfrow, great what he did at Clemson, and now is the starting guy on the depth chart for that slot position with the Raiders. This team, when you look at their offense, they might not win a lot of games. Their over-under right now is 6.5. And they have one of the hardest schedules based on the teams who have won the previous season in terms of this season. But again, when you look at this offense and you look at what they've been able to do, and Antonio Brown is unknown. We don't know what he's going to do. I really think Hunter Renfrow, even though he hasn't started yet with the ones in the preseason, I think he takes a big leap here.
Jeff, what do you think?
I like Jacoby Myers. I mean, he's probably going to be like 60% owned, but I mean, I just don't know how you avoid him at this. You just look at the New England depth chart, Edelman, and then it's like 5 injured players, and then Jacoby Myers, who's basically played like all of preseason. They're probably going to keep playing him this week. He's in a battle for the spot. He's been productive all preseason. Like I said, injury concerns are going to keep him on the field probably for 3/4 of the game again. I just don't know how you avoid this spot. It's just so good. There's no one else, again, with this kind of volume that you're assured of. So why not just play them and go tricky somewhere else? If you do want like that home run hit, Jacksonville is going to be putting their starters out this week. They basically haven't played them in all the first 2 weeks. But DJ Chark, the guy's just a beast. At some point, maybe it'll be in the regular season, he's going to bust a big play. So if he's in play for more than a quarter, I think DJ Chark really makes sense on the slate too.
I got to give it to Jeff. Jeff has been hammering the DJ Chark train since like
he's going to be a monster this year.
last year. So he's going to be out. Jeff is, I mean,
all in.
Chark all the time.
I wish Matchups Breakdown was back because it would be his value play each and every single week. And Jacoby Myers, by the way, you look at what, I know. You look at what he did, though. You could talk about the Raiders. You look at what he did the last couple of weeks with Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. Now he's going to have Tom Brady on the field tonight.
Oh, yikes.
At least that's the assumption. So you figure he could even be that much better. But last
Is that
one
an upgrade at quarterback or a downgrade, though? I don't know. He's pretty old.
Oh, wow. What do you have to say about the GOAT, Jeff? Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah.
What?
I didn't say anything.
No,
okay.
nothing at all.
Let's go.
Well, Brady won't have any tight ends to throw to. We know that. There are none in New England. But who stands out at tight end among the half dozen games tonight here, Jeff?
I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki from the Dolphins. You look at, again, it's another team. It's just thin a wide receiver, a ton of injuries. Gesicki's second year. They've been making a conscious attempt in the preseason to get him involved. I think he had 3 or 4 targets last week. Again, you're going to see a little bit more run from the starters here. There's not as many secondary options to throw to anyways. I like the spot. I mean, tight end is always it's really tricky in preseason to begin with. But I think that's where I would go with looking at the slate.
And Reed?
I mean, Mike Gesicki, he's an interesting guy. I think last year, we were a little too early on Gesicki just because he had the form. But you look at that same game, I think O'Shaughnessy is someone that's just going to get volume. Is he the starting tight end in Jacksonville? Probably not. I think if you're looking at season long, Jeff Swain is that guy, but both of these guys, Swain and Oliver, are injured. And so they're likely not going to play. And so just in terms of volume and getting passes from Jeff's boy, I think he's going to be a solid play just based on the volume that he's going to get.
All righty, we got more NFL on the way with you guys and plenty of baseball as well. In fact, after a Le'Veon Bell update, Adam will be back with Brave star Ozzie Albies. Ooh.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen, and with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Le'Veon Bell wants to be tackled. I am not joking. The new Jets running back is sitting out the preseason slate, and he's just fine with that. Bell just wants his body to get used to contact. Nothing punishing. I mean, he hasn't played in a game in 19 months. The former Steeler has told his new teammates repeatedly before practices, "Give me a little something." It sometimes reaches a point Bell initiates contact on his own. Here's Bell. "A lot of times you'll start seeing guys get a little frustrated and they'll try to hit me back, and that's what I need. They won't take me to the ground. They won't go for my legs, hitting me up top, things like that. I need all that." When you examine Bell's Week 1 matchup alone, the Bills provide a tough test. Buffalo was a top 2 defense last season in total yards allowed, and its run defense is in a spot to improve on its middle-of-the-pack status. Bell's right. What are a few plays in a preseason game really going to do for him? Let's see if his teammates rough him up a bit, but just be careful.
We are here on The Sweat with someone who, in some parts of the world, really is young enough to be my son, actually. Brave second baseman Ozzie Albies. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Hey, what's it feel like to only be 22 years old and in your third season in the majors?
It feels great. Dream come true big time when I first had to make my debut at 17, and something I always dream about, and now I'm here is just playing, having fun with it, and be on a great pace right now to get to the playoffs, and that's what we hope to do again.
You've obviously been making the most of it. I mean, you've already been an all-star. You've already reached the playoffs, looking to go back there. But you mentioned your MLB debut back in 2017. What do you remember about that? The nerves, the excitement, only being 20. What was that like?
It was first, I wasn't nervous the first game till I got in the third game when I got my first knock. That's when all the nerves that came up, and I was feeling nervous after I got it. And then the fourth game on, it just was fun and something I will never forget.
I'm going to quiz you on that first game, see how well you remember it. You remember who you played, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, go play and then go home. I couldn't even sleep, just replaying the game, keep watching what I did. Something really big for me.
Do you remember how you did in that game? What your numbers were?
I remember I got on base with a walk.
Yeah.
Made some defensive plays, but I didn't get a hit till my third game, so that's what all I remember that day.
Yeah, you got the walk. You scored a run against the Dodgers. 0 for 2. You're right, but obviously you've more than made up for that since. You don't have to worry about that. In fact, you've been enjoying a career year here in year 3. Personal bests in average and slugging, OPS. You might get there, probably will in RBI and homers. What's been the biggest key to your success?
Just trust myself, trust what I can do, and keep playing, never give up. And not every day is going to be the same, but I'm going to keep pushing, keep playing hard till the season is over.
Is it hard not to, if you go into a little slump or something like that, not to get into your own head about it, to stay confident, know that you've had success at this level, that you can break out of the funk?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. We human, we're going to be in a slump sometimes, and you just got to keep doing what you have been doing before. If you in a slump that you hit the balls hard at people, just keep swinging it. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing the same thing you're doing. It's going to come back to you, turn around your way.
Well, being so young, so successful, and everybody knows that you're one of the best second basemen in the league, but would you rank yourself number one?
I always play out there hard like I'm number one. So that's the mentality I have. I play hard every single night.
That's a good way to look at it. And last month, in fact, you joined some really exclusive company. You became the 5th player in baseball history to hit 4 Grand Slams before turning 23. Can you name the others?
I heard about some other names. I heard Chicago Stanton.
Yeah.
Griffey.
Yeah.
Pujols.
No. One guy that played 1,000,000 years ago, Ted Williams, and also Eddie Matthews, who played quite a while ago. But to be in, you got 2 out of 4. That's pretty good. To be in that kind of company, what's that like?
Feels great. Feels amazing. And even before I did it, some of my teammates were telling me, you have the chance to do it, so go for it. And that AB, particularly that AB, I told myself that I want to do it, and then it happened. So that's what I mean with trusting myself and believing in myself.
Are you the kind of guy that, in that type of situation, I mean, you step to the plate and that's the goal? You focus on hitting a home run, or will you change your approach, change your swing because you want to go yard, or are you just worried about getting quality hits, getting on base, facing good pitches, that sort of thing?
Getting the quality AB and help score the runs, I need to help my team get to win the ball game. But in that situation, I always just try to get on base. Like hit with nobody on, with nobody else. I mean, I'm trying to just put the ball in the gap and make those runs score, because that's an opportunity that you're getting 3 runs, 3 RBIs for your team. So I'm gonna always do the best I can to make sure I score all those runs in.
How often do you actually try to hit a home run, though?
not try, but on the right side, I have a different swing than on the left side. On the right side, I swing more to hit the ball in the gap. On the left side, there's days that it doesn't feel the same, so I just go and try to put the barrel on the ball, stay through it, hard up the middle. On the right side, I can drive the ball better.
Well, you only started switch hitting, 6 years ago, I think? How difficult was that to get used to when, you're already in your mid-teens?
Yeah, it was a little difficult, but I trusted myself, and I told myself that I'm going to go wake up every morning, work on it off the tee. I did it off the tee for like 2-3 months straight, and just trusting, believing in it, and it became huge for me that I don't have it all the way yet, but it feels way better than what I started 5-6 years ago.
Why'd you do it? Did you feel like it gave you a better chance of making the majors, or you just wanted to be more versatile? What was the point?
The scout at that time, Johnny Almaraz, told me that I can have more tools, more ability to be a switch hitter, fast runner, play good defense, short and sack, and then told me you have more tools, so teams will like you more. And that's when I started doing it.
We've heard that you're very dedicated to your pregame ritual. What do you do to get ready for a game?
I come to the field around 2 o'clock, 2:30, and first thing I do is go eat. And after that, I go stretch, go outside, do Washington drills. If I'm Washington every day, I do defensive drills for like 5-6 minutes every day. Then I go to the cage and hit BP. Then from there, it's just relax, listen to music, eat, take a shower, and go to the game.
Are you always eating the same food, listening to the same music? Is the routine that regimented?
Not the same music, not the same food, but the same routine as I just said. It's every day the same.
Same times too? I mean, does it follow kind of the same pattern over the course of the afternoon?
Yeah, same time, same everything. And it doesn't matter if it's a day game, it's the same thing.
Brendan Glasheen here with the Week 3 NFL preseason preview presented by Angel Has Fallen. The hero becomes the fugitive in this action-packed new film starring Gerard Butler, Morgan Freeman, and Jada Pinkett Smith in theaters August 23rd. DK Live's Reed Fowler is here. And Reed, we're going to begin by looking back. Anything stand out to you from the Week 2 slate of games in the NFL preseason that could then help you build your Week 3 lineup in that crucial Week 3 preseason game?
Well, it's Lamar Jackson. You
Okay.
see him now rising up in season-long ADPs, but for the slate, I think playing Lamar Jackson and pairing him up with guys on that team, especially Justice Hill or other players that we have on the Ravens, is a really good stack. He is that guy that is really becoming the quote-unquote cheat code where he can just run, right, and take off running. And we saw that against Green Bay where he scored that touchdown. He even had 3 guys open or a few guys open that he could have passed to. So looking forward, Lamar Jackson is the guy that I'll be targeting.
So who is your favorite pick for the Week 3 slate? Is it Lamar Jackson?
Well, 1, and then 2 is Alvin Kamara. I mean, they go up against a Jets team that has been depleted by injuries so far in the preseason. Tough losing some key guys on that defense. But now, again, we get to see these top guys play, right? Some of them, or most of them, have been held out in the first 2 weeks of preseason. Alvin Kamara is someone that I'm going to be targeting.
Okay, thank you, Reed. That is going to do it for this Week 3 NFL preseason preview presented by Angel Has Fallen. The hero becomes the fugitive. Action-packed new film starring Gerard Butler, Morgan Freeman, and Jada Pinkett Smith in theaters August 23rd.
What is that?
They're drones! They're drones! Get the president in the water!
How long after this last concussion did the migraine start?
Pretty much right away. So we're going under. Dive deep.
You need to be a lot more careful.
Agent Banning is charged with the attempted murder of the President of the United States.
You said it was from a car accident?
Yeah.
What line of work you in?
Computer sales?
A statewide manhunt is underway.
Mike,
You okay?
what's going on?
There's somebody else behind us. It wasn't me.
I just want you to come home safe.
I love you. You almost blew me up.
You're welcome.
You can't hide from us. Don't worry about finding me. I'll find you.
Let's turn our attention to baseball and our baseball panel. DK Live's Gary Thorne and Julian Edlow, along with the owner of DFSR.com, Doug Norrie. Name of the game is MLB Chaser Fade, so agree or disagree with these sportsbook bets.
Pretty basic. You guys are smart. You'll figure it out. Tigers plus 425 underdogs last night against the Astros. Seemed like a no-brainer, right? Thing is, they pulled the biggest upset in the last 15 years. So Garian, chase or fade, they do it again tonight as an even bigger underdog at plus 430 because, again, it happened last night for the first time in 15 years. So, of course, tonight seems like a good option.
Look, there's the old saying that the coin doesn't know that the last time it was flipped, it was heads or tails. Like, what happened last night really shouldn't have any impact on what happened tonight. At the same time, there is no possible way I'm chasing this. Look, I'm in no way endorsing betting money line on the Astros to win this game. There's no value there. But look, the last 15 starts Garrett Cole has made against a team sub 500, the Astros are 14-1. He has a 1.77 ERA and 34% strikeout rate in his last 10 starts overall. I just can't see betting the Tigers and having any confidence, aside from the fact that anytime you're getting plus 400, I guess in a vacuum, it's good value on a basic DFS slate.
Jules, you think it outside the box at all?
I mean, I'm not going to chase that the Tigers actually win this game. I'll chase that there's value on the money line. And like Garian said, that's only because we can't, put any stock in what happened last night in terms of that win. And, that win or that loss for Verlander, the Tigers or the Astros rather, only 2 times in the last 15 years has a plus 400 underdog won a game. Those were 2 starts by Justin Verlander in the last 11 days, the other one being in Baltimore with a similar line on that game. So at some point, you have to think that this is going to end. You obviously can't bet the Houston money line. I think Garrett Cole's strikeout prop is actually the best bet in this game, over 8.5 there. Cole averages about 9 strikeouts per game. The Tigers strike out about 10 times per game. It just feels like the value's got to be there, especially after what Verlander did to them from a strikeout perspective last night.
Doug, do you like another big upset from the Tigers in Houston?
No, I'm pretty much with these guys as well. These are crazy numbers we're flirting with. I will say, the Verlander thing is an interesting point, and there have been 5 times teams have closed minus 400 or more this year, and 3 of them have turned out to be losses outright. I picked sort of an arbitrary endpoint on that, but it is funny how much it's happened. At the same time, Cole's easily the best pitcher on the slate. I guess if you're a little worried that the pitch count isn't there because they skipped him in a start, maybe that could inform you a little bit, and maybe that brings Detroit up. But Detroit's just so bad, and Zimmerman is too. So it's really hard to think you're getting value on either side of this bet.
Blue Jays are big underdogs as well against the Dodgers. Kenta Maeda on the mound for LA. His strikeout total is set at 7.5. So far in this series, Walker Buehler went over that total with 8 Ks in game 1. Now Kershaw went under with 6 Ks in game 2. With this in mind, Jules, chase or fade Maeda hitting the over and striking out 8?
I'll fade. He's actually not been as good since the break. Towards the beginning of the season, he was a guy that you could trust at home and wanted to stay away from on the road. But in the second half here, he's just been overall not as good of a pitcher. And the Blue Jays have been kind of pesky in this series. So I'm going to say that he doesn't get there and take the under.
Gary, and I know that you actually like Maeda tonight because I read your article on the playbook.
Yeah, I do, but I still don't necessarily think this is a smart over. Although I will say we have to actually see the Blue Jays lineup. The Jays, kind of like the Rays, really don't know what their lineup's going to look like on a night-to-night basis, and it's crucial against Maeda, who I do like in showdown formats, but that's kind of a limited scope. His splits between right-handers and left-handers when it comes to strikeouts is massive, and that's because of his slider usage. It's up at 52% against righties and just 10% against lefties, and it's clear from the 31% strikeout rate he has in right on right and 20% strikeout rate he has in right on left, that pitch is kind of crucial to this prop. So the Jays don't have a lot, you can say, in a positive sense about their offense, but they can throw out a bunch of left-handed bats. So if we get in a situation where there's only 3 or 4 right-handed bats in this lineup, add in Dave Roberts. Like we saw last night, Walker Walker Buehler missed out on his strikeout over because he was pulled with 91 pitches after 7 innings. That's a Dave Roberts move, man. That's not going away. So I think the smart money here is probably to play it safe and take the under.
Doug, what do you think? Lefties have a much easier time handling Maeda, so maybe if the Blue Jays throw out a bunch of lefties, he's in trouble. Doesn't hit this 8 here?
I probably doubt that's going to happen. They don't have tons of lefty bats really that they're working with anyway. I'm actually more on the pitch count thing. The Dodgers are so far up in the NL West at this point, 20 games up. There's something like 7 or 8 games up just in the NL altogether. They've played kid gloves with their pitchers a lot more last year than this year. But I think, to speak to that Walker Buehler at 91 pitches, that was a close game. I think we start to see, and by the way, Maeda hasn't topped 95 pitches since like the beginning of July. So it's mostly the pitch count that has me really far on the under here. I think this is a very easy bet actually, because I think there's just so many scenarios where Maeda just doesn't even see a full complement of pitches because they just don't simply need to push their starters at this point.
Guys, how about the Rangers and White Sox? They have the highest total on the slate tonight, set at 11 runs, so we're expecting a lot of offense. And Chicago has one of the lowest run totals in baseball, scoring just over 4 per game. So, Doug, let's stay with you here. You want to chase or fade? This hits the over. We get plus 11.
Now I'm fading this. This is actually down to 10.5 in some spots. Detweiler lets up a ton of home runs, something like 3 home runs per 9, which is a problem when they face really good lineups, but this Rangers lineup really has very little power in it to speak of. Pence has a little pop. Calhoun is slightly better against lefties, but really after that, the bottom of this lineup is really pretty bad. I always want to call it Comiskey. The White Sox change the field every 2 minutes, it feels like. But now I'm going to call it U.S. Cellular. Now I count guaranteed rate. So 9.5 runs per game at a guaranteed rate in White Sox Park this year. I have no faith at all, really, in the Rangers lineup. Wind blowing across the field, too, which is not helping. It's pretty steady, like 13 miles an hour right to left. So I actually don't mind the under here, even factoring that Detweiler is really a home run machine. Gerudo actually keeps the ball on the ground a lot, too. So, yeah, like the under here.
One thing we did do is hit a lot of sponsors there. What do you say, Gary?
Yeah, I'm going to trail. I think you got to fade this. I just don't really like – I mean, Texas without Danny Santana is already sort of one hurdle you have to get over. Santana's been easily their most productive and most powerful hitter over the past 3 months. But Chicago is just a completely different lineup when it comes to their production against right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching. They've got a 102 WRC plus against lefties. That drops down to 81 against righties. Now, Yoan Moncada's return is going to help that, but he hasn't played in quite some time. It's his first game back. And, it kind of plays out in some of the trends as well. The last 8 games, Chicago has played a right-handed pitcher at home. The under is hit all 8 times. I just think for as bad as the starters could be in this game, the offenses might be worse. So give me the under.
Julian?
Well, whatever the name of the stadium where the White Sox is, I will chase that it is a better name than the stadium where the Royals play.
Hey.
Terribly named Kaufman Stadium.
Hey.
I don't have any fancy numbers like these guys nailed it. Told you. Yeah, there's bad pitching in this game, which has that total set at 11. That's what gets it there. That's what's intriguing about it. But then you look at the lineups, and both of these lineups are nothing special either. So just to take what these guys said and simplify it, I think this number is inflated because of the pitching, although there's really bad hitting on both sides. So I'm leaning under here.
I just wish I was related to those fine folks at Kaufman Stadium.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, boys, we got an odds boost on the book today. You can get the Mets to win by 3 or more runs against the Indians at plus 265. No Syndergaard is on the hill for New York as well. So chase or fade, they can do it, Garion.
Nah. This isn't boosted enough for me to be intrigued by this. Look, Aaron Savale has been pretty good in his 4 starts. The metrics bear that out. The Mets sort of similar to the White Sox, except to a greater extent. They are a higher floor, I will say, than the White Sox, but they also have a lineup that really you just would rather see against a left-handed pitcher. They go from a 113 WRC plus to a 99 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. They're not bad, and they've been better lately, but this is a lineup that just produces more runs against left-handed pitching. So, look, they could win this game. I think they're justifiably favored in this game, but it's not enough juice for me to take them minus 2.5.
Julian, you said the Mets are heating up again, but there's not a glaring advantage in this game. So where are you going on this one?
Yeah, I mean, an odds boost is great, but Cleveland is a very formidable opponent with a solid pitcher on the mound opposite Syndergaard. So I like the Mets in this game, but I don't need to I don't need to try and get that payout on a 3+ run win. The Mets are down to -125. I saw them earlier this morning at -148 on DK Sportsbook. So some money is coming in on Cleveland, helping us get a really fair number on New York. I think the Mets with Syndergaard on the mound, that hot offense, Cleveland's bullpen slipping a little bit. I think the money line is a fine play at -125, but I'm not going to chase the odds boost yet.
What about you, Doug? You going to chase this odds boost?
I'm right with these guys. I mean, the pitchers really aren't even that different. Syndergaard might just be a little overrated at this point. The K numbers are pretty in lockstep with each other. The xFIPs are really close. Syndergaard's slightly better, but not so much that you're getting a monster advantage that I think you think of when you see Thor on the mound compared to a relatively unknown pitcher he's not nearly as good as the sub-2 ERA would suggest, but that goes without saying. But I think there's just some, maybe just speculation, not speculation. I think there's just some feeling that Syndergaard is this ace level pitcher, and he really just hasn't been this season. So I don't think you're getting much by just assuming the Mets have just the upper hand in this matchup. I really see the pitching matchup as pretty close.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for playing. Plenty more to come on the Sweat, of course, including my always interesting conversation with the sports pope himself, Mike Francesa. We always, well, at least I always enjoy that. I know he does.
He enjoys that too. But before that, here's the Panel B podcast on Melvin Gordon.
Is Gordon just completely untouchable for you? How are you approaching it?
I mean, now that it's being reported that's going to leak into the regular season, like, he's untouchable. Like, maybe in the late rounds, you know?
I mean, what round, though? Because that's still not to say he's, missing the entire season or even half the season.
No, but I mean, at this rate, it's like people are still drafting like Rob Gronkowski on the hope that he'll come back in the late rounds. Like I feel
in your drafts.
I feel you look it up, you'll see it. In between your no, we won't even go there.
All right,
but it's like one of those like late round flyers at this point because Eckler and Jackson are fully capable of handling the running back duties on this team. Like Jackson especially. Jackson is so much more built to take on that workhorse role because that's what he was in college. And we always hear about how talented he is. And Eckler's not that workhorse guy. Like, I think Jackson is such a more attractive option to be targeting here from the Chargers if you're looking there because Eckler could come in and steal those touchdowns. Like he could be like the goal line guy, but I think Jackson's going to end up with the majority of the work. And for PPR formats, he is excellent in that.
I mean, Eckler's a pass catching back though too.
No, for sure.
He could be like a James White, especially if Jackson doesn't separate himself as a de facto number one.
See, this would be like, I feel like something that starts as a 50-50 split with the potential for Jackson to earn the 60 to 70% if he plays to his ceiling.
Right.
I had a draft this past weekend. I think Melvin Gordon went in the 5th round, and I took Justin Jackson in the 15th round, which I was happy with getting.
Yeah, sure.
But to answer the original question, like, I don't think Melvin Gordon's untouchable, but like 6th, 7th, 8th round for me is maybe where he would start coming in because there's a lot of risk, and he's a guy that would be, when you have that turnaround pick in the 8 to 12 range originally where you would want to land him, maybe even higher, and now he drops multiple rounds because of this. At some point you have to take the upside there in case something that just gets worked out. But for me in season long, Eckler in the 7th or 8th, which is right around where you can get Gordon maybe too, seems fine, but I would much rather take the value on Jackson with one of those bottom of the barrel picks.
I know you're looking forward to watching the Browns this year for maybe different reasons than I am. I actually think they're going to be pretty good. You expect a dumpster fire, I know that. We can agree on this though. They'll be interesting. And Baker Mayfield is already getting in trouble, running his mouth. He told GQ, blows his mind that Giants drafted Daniel Jones 6th overall last year. As we remember from our draft show here on DK, blew your mind as well. But are we really supposed to believe that Baker's comments were taken out of context?
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, they always, first thing guys do is say they didn't say it. I mean, the first thing they do is say they were misquoted. He wasn't misquoted. He's always shooting his mouth off. I mean, here's the thing, though. Why does anybody pay any attention to anything Baker Mayfield says? I mean, you know what? He's not a bad quarterback, but you know what? Who would listen to him? I mean, please, Then you got then you got Beckham, who all he cares about is the Giants. I mean, if I'm the Browns, can he pay attention to anything in Cleveland? All he cares about is everything that's going on. He could care less. Everything's about the New York Giants now. He cares more about the Giants now than he did when he was on the Giants. So it's ridiculous. And now you got a first-year coach running that circus. That thing is a crash. I mean, people are on the Super Bowl bandwagon with that team. That team has a better chance to be crash and burn than it does to be Super Bowl. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, one idiot, I don't know if you saw this on social media earlier, already went and got the, Cleveland Browns Super Bowl champion tattoo. I don't know why people do this year after year. They get these tattoos, and once in a million end up being right.
First of all, I don't want to hear about anybody who's dumb enough to get a tattoo to begin with, okay?
Okay.
Secondly, I don't care. You know what? To me, somebody getting a tattoo is not a story. I don't care about people getting tattoos. What do I care if somebody gets a tattoo? I don't want to hear about it. Keep it yourself. I don't care if you get it. You can get a tattoo on your forehead for all I care. I don't care. But don't bother me with it. What do I care if you get a tattoo?
Some guy actually did get a tattoo on the side of his head of Juju Smith-Schuster's signature, actually, after he signed his head at training camp, and then he tattooed it. But let's go back to the Giants.
There's a genius for you.
Yeah, that's a guy you want to hang out. At least the hair can grow over, probably. I don't know enough about tattoos. But the Giants, because Daniel Jones, based on my Twitter feed, Mike, this guy has been a Hall of Famer this preseason. Goodbye, Eli, and seriously, put this guy in Canton. Are you all in on this kid, or are you still questioning that decision?
Listen, we don't know any more about him than we did when they drafted him. This idea that now, because he completed a couple of passes against a couple of guys who will be driving UPS trucks in 2 weeks, who cares? I mean, the Bears didn't bring anybody to that game. They brought nobody. They didn't bring any players. If you could play, you stayed home. They didn't bring anybody to that game. These preseason games are a farce. So if you're going to judge performance from preseason games, you are going to be so wrong. It is ridiculous. I don't know anything more about Daniel Jones than I knew about him when he got drafted. Wait till he plays for real, then we can talk about it.
Le'Veon Bell has not played a football game in about 19 months. He's looking for more contact.
And he won't until
no, he's not going to. He's looking for more contact in Jets camp as a result. He actually told New York's defenders to hit him more because he's not playing in these exhibitions. He wants to get acclimated to being tackled again. Is that a good idea?
No, the whole thing is stupid. First of all, here's the problem, Adam.
Tell me.
These coaches have completely run scared of the preseason games. The NFL is in complete conflict about training camp and preseason games. Nobody wants to play in the preseason games. Every executive, every coach is completely afraid of every one of his key players getting hurt in preseason games. Gaze has a linebacker get hurt in the second quarter and then apologizes for him being in the game. It was the second quarter. He's a linebacker. What are you going to tell me? If he had come out 3 plays earlier, he wouldn't have gotten hurt? I mean, how ridiculous has this gotten? And now we're not playing Bell because, God forbid, he gets hurt. You cannot treat football players that way. You cannot put them in a jar and protect them.
Mm-hmm.
They're football players. They can get hurt anytime, anywhere. It's just part of the deal. That's all there is to it. But preseason, the NFL has to come to a conclusion because here's what they think. Hey, we can continue to make the season ticket holders pay for these games, even though we're giving them nothing but garbage. And you know what? Sooner or later, they're going to say, you know what? We're not paying for the season tickets anymore because we're not buying these preseason games. There is going to be a ticket holder revolt about these There's already been a network revolt about the preseason games. The networks don't want any part of them. Soon, the season ticket holders are not going to win any part of them, and they're dead right. The NFL should not charge good money for the product they're putting on in the preseason. It is substandard.
Always great to hear from Mike.
Love it.
Yeah, every week.
Yeah.
Usually on a Friday. Today's Thursday, special occasion just for you. Our baseball guys are back. DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler.
Baseball.
We mean football.
Baseball, yeah, football guys.
Baseball.
I did start introducing I don't want to hear these guys talk about baseball at all. I much prefer your football takes.
Yes.
So let's do NFL hot or not, all right? We want to know if some week 2 preseason standouts can stand out again amongst the crowd. And Reed, everyone's favorite Raider, has to be yours, Mike Glennon, passed for 175 yards and a score last week. Do you have any faith that he's going to do something like that again against the Packers?
Nope, can't hear you.
No faith.
Nope. Oh.
Let's try and read his lips.
Just go over to the good-looking guy.
You hear me?
There he is.
Give Reed a second here to fix his stuff.
How does that make Jeff feel? We were more willing to wait for Reed than go to
The Raiders
Jeff.
starter is supposed to get a little bit of work today, but it's not a lot. So you're going to see a little bit of Derek Carr. You should see mostly Mike Glennon and Nathan Peterman. I still like the spot for Mike Glennon. I think he's perfectly fine as a target tonight. Like I said before, I prefer Andy Dalton if you're really ranking quarterbacks, but Mike Glennon would be on near the top of my list. It's a good spot in preseason against the seconds for Mike Glennon. It's the guy who used to start for a team. I mean, he's got skill. He's a little bit slow, yeah, and he's probably not a starter material. But as a backup against preseason in this spot, yeah, it's fine. You can still play Mike Glennon tonight. I would choose hot as opposed to not in this spot.
All right, we're going to say that's kind of hot. More hot than not. What do you say, Reed?
Yeah, no, I agree with Jeff to an extent. And Glennon really should have had 3 touchdowns. He missed Darren Waller, who's like 8 feet tall, and threw it over him that last game. But yeah, I mean, how much is he going to get? I really don't think, I would say not, just to kind of give the devil's advocate viewpoint of, like, how much do we know that these guys, the seconds and the thirds, are going to get in the third week of the preseason? You have some guys come out and say, look, none of my starters are going to play. Like Sean McVay say, none of my starters are going to play. But then you get some guys like Gruden that like to see his starters out there, right? So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say if you wanted to attack this game at all, it's the skill positions. But Glennon, he does look good. He looks good for that second starting role as opposed to good old Nathan Peterman.
Oh, man. Nathan Peterman.
Man.
All right. Preseason Hall of Famer Daniel Jones may not be Baker Mayfield's favorite quarterback. Can't believe that. But Giants fans love him after a 161-yard, 1-touchdown effort. He'll face the Bengals tonight. Hot or not, Jeff?
I'm gonna go not here. I think the Daniel Jones train might just come to a bit of a stop. There's a couple reasons why. The first thing is, again, it's week 3, so the Bengals are ramping up a little bit here. You're going to see more starters. This is also Jones's first away game, which maybe not like the biggest of deals, but it is something to consider. Again, nothing against Daniel Jones. I think he's actually going to turn out to be a little bit better than people thought. I mean, obviously, it was a bit of a stretch pick from the Giants still, but I think this is a spot where I would avoid him personally. You're going to get a lot of sediment coming in on him too, so I don't think his ownership is exactly going to be low tonight. This is a spot where I would fade him against more starters on the road. I'll choose not.
Yeah, we could have guessed that one because you love Andy Dalton. Reed, where are you going on this one?
Oh, reliable.
No, Daniel Jones. I mean, I want to hear what Giants fans have to say about Daniel Jones now. Like, he's been performing, serviceably, and I think he's going to be hot this tonight. And if you just look at, again, what the Giants have in their backfield, you don't need to see anything out of Eli. You put him in for a quarter and a half, and then for I'd say about the same amount of time, a quarter and a half, Daniel Jones is going to get that opportunity. He was getting it with the number ones earlier, and so now he's getting more repetitions with the offensive line, with the skill position guys, timing with the receivers. I think he's going to get more time. Lauletta probably comes in towards the fourth quarter, but Daniel Jones, 15 to 20 attempts, I think it's going to be what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. And I think when you look at preseason, even though his ownership isn't going to be low, it's all about volume. So I'm going to say hot.
This is not deliberate that I'm talking about the Patriots. It's just the order of the rundown, Reed. But Patriots appear to have found something in third-round pick Damian Harris. 80 yards on the ground, chunk in the air last time out in Tennessee. Will he get similar run tonight? What do you think?
I should be asking you this question. You know what? I'm going to say no, just because I never know what Bill Belichick's going to do. The one thing that we do know is that Sony Michel has a number 1 spot. James White is that third down back, and Damian Harris is probably going to be the guy who relieves these starters when it comes second half in the regular season. What's questionable is Rex Burkhead. Is he going to get cut? Is he going to make this team? We have no idea. Damian Harris looks really good. We know that if Sony or James went down for any reason in the regular season, he can fulfill that role, whatever it may be. I'm going to say no just because we have no idea what Belichick's going to do. This is the first game back in Foxborough, but I want to defer to Jeff here because I have no idea, so I'm going to say no.
Jeff?
I mean, it is always a little bit risky. Reed's right. Like, especially in preseason, when you're trying to decide what Bill Belichick is going to do, it's hard enough in regular season. At the same time, I would lean hot here. I think you'll see Damian Harris with a similar workload. They really don't need to work in Sony Michel much at all. And if they do work him, I would assume it's a couple series. Damian Harris is the other part of it. Damian Harris is really good. I mean, we talk about Daniel Jones being a reach. Damian Harris is a fantastic value pick, in my opinion. kind of stings me that the Patriots did it, but I think you're going to see him in this game. I just can't find a reason for them not to play. It's the third preseason game. That's when we see the starters get a little bit of work, but also those rookies that are going to be influential in the game get more work as well. So Damian Harris should set up for a similar workload. Like I said, he's really good, and if he does get it, I wouldn't be shocked to see a similar type of output. So
they're probably going to be. Sorry, Jeff. They're probably going to be taking it easy, to Jeff's point, on Sonny Michel's knee. They were doing it earlier in the preseason. Right?
I can't see them sending Michel out there for quarter max. Like I even think that would be a stretch.
Yeah, maybe just a couple series. All right, we're not done yet. Much more on the way, including another baseball player on the sweat. Jessie here sat down with the Rangers' Danny Santana. That's on the way.
All right, let's talk about your journey to the Rangers. After a couple of seasons with Minnesota and Atlanta, you signed a minor league deal with Texas this offseason, but it didn't take long for them to call you up to the show. You joined the big club in mid-April. How good did it feel to be back on the big stage?
I feel really good to be here again and do what I do, and I'm happy to be here.
So the past few seasons were challenging for you at the plate, but you really turned it around this year. You've already posted career highs in homers and RBIs. What would you say has been the key difference for you this season?
Prepare. I do a lot of things. I work hard, and I try to do my best every time I go out to the field.
So you're a switch hitter, something fantasy baseball players always look for thanks to their ability to hit well off righties and lefties. What would you say is the key to becoming a switch hitter?
I try to do the same work I do left-handed and right-handed. Try to do to make the same swings, same preparation in both sides.
So you're a five-tool player. Which of your skills would you say is the strongest?
I have the 5 tools, but the best I have is my arm and my abilities to hit.
So your name came up in a lot of trade rumors around the deadline, but the Rangers didn't let you go. Were you nervous at all that you'd be leaving Arlington?
I was really nervous, and I don't think I don't want that happen. I want to stay here for long. I love Arlington. I love the team. I love everybody here, and I want to stay here for long.
So you grew up in the Dominican Republic. Who do you think is the best Dominican-born player of all time?
Albert Pujols.
You knew right off the bat you had your guy. All right, so you guys were in the playoff hunt for a good part of this season. Do you think that next year you guys can make some noise and be serious contenders?
Yeah, we got a good team. We got young guys, young arms. They're really good. I think they got more experience for next year, and then they help us a lot for next year.
So you're consistently one of the most expensive first basemen on DraftKings. So do fans ever talk to you about your fantasy performance or try to chirp you on Twitter or something?
Yeah, I see all the things they post and they tweet. Like I'm not a tweet guy, I just saw that they put it on, and that's it.
Yeah, you got to stay off the internet, man. All right, Danny Santana, great talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Who in particular are you trying to watch? Maybe a team, maybe it's a battle, positional battle. Bukes, what are you looking at?
I actually think the Panthers are a very intriguing team to watch because, especially with drafts coming up, we like to do it late in the preseason. How that offensive line is going to look because, we keep hearing the sentiment of how hard they're going to be riding Christian McCaffrey. And I don't know if it's confirmed if Cam Newton is playing or not. I believe he's not, from what I last heard. But
I thought he was going to be out there.
I heard he was going to be out there.
Okay, he is going to be out there. Okay, but obviously, so that's even more. So how he is dealing with the shoulder injury, because that's a big part of it too, because Curtis Samuel is someone that we keep hearing a lot of buzz about coming into the season. So I think that's actually a really intriguing team to watch, and they're going up against the Patriots, so obviously another good team going against them. So that's actually one game that I'm actually really looking forward to, not even just because the Patriots are involved, just because I actually want to see a lot of the Panthers players in that one.
Yes, both Brady and Newton are expected to play in this game.
Awesome. Okay.
I guess for a player that I'm intrigued in, I'm really high on the fantasy value of Kyler Murray this year. He looked pretty good in some bland sets in the first game in limited reps. He looked terrible against the Raiders in limited reps in his second game. This will probably be, when he gets a full half or so, and then most likely, who knows what they do, but shuts it down for the fourth game. So I want to see how he looks in his final dress rehearsal with the most reps that he's going to see yet. At Minnesota, who knows how much Minnesota's defensive starters will play, but historically that's a tougher place to play, a good defensive team. So I feel like that's going to be a good test for Kyler Murray. That's a Saturday afternoon game.
I would say, add to that too, the one thing that would put me at ease about Kyler Murray watching that game against Oakland is that their defense looks as bad, if not worse, than they did last year. Yep. When you've got Mike Glennon and company, Nate Peterman just charging up and down the field like the Raiders were, Murray's going to have to put up points.
Exactly. That's going to lead to slinging it. That's going to lead to him scrambling on 2nd and 12s and whatever. I'm high on Murray. I'm still high on him.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to kick into some level of survivor mode.
Exactly.
I think especially in the preseason, he's trying to learn on the new things that might be different, the different nuances of the offense. And then when you're down
42-20 in the fourth quarter in a regular season game,
you're going to go back
to
your Sandlot style Kyler Murray, and I think he'll be a fine fantasy asset for sure.
Wrapping up the show with more baseball. DK Live's Gary and Thorne and Julian Edlow, plus owner of DFSR.com, Doug Norrie, are back for MLB Pickoff, choosing which guys they'd rather have in DFS tonight.
Basic enough. The two highest priced pitchers are Garrett Cole. We've talked about him. He is $12,000. Max Scherzer, $11,400. So Gary and Cole and the Astros, they've been struggling just a little bit, but Scherzer, he's coming off the injured list. Are you going to go with Cole or maybe save a little cash, go with Scherzer?
Yeah, this was a lot more interesting before we found out that Scherzer was on a pitch limit, which makes sense. Like you said, it's his first start coming off the IL. He's going to be limited to 75 to 80 pitches. But I think even before that, Garrett Cole was the right answer. And it's kind of interesting to break down the matchups that these two guys have and compare and contrast. I mean, on the surface, Pittsburgh and Detroit seem very similar. One leads the National League in swing rate, one leads the American League in swing rate. But the Pirates kind of have translated that into having the National League's lowest strikeout rate. They just don't get into a lot of two-strike counts. They're far too aggressive, where the Tigers still strike out more than any other team in baseball because they pair that swing rate with the highest swinging strike rate in all of baseball. They're DFS catnip. They're the best possible matchup you can have. Whereas the Pirates, as we sort of saw last night with Patrick Corbin, you can get in these situations where Corbin's on pace for a Maddox, but he's only actually got 4 strikeouts in 8 innings. So I think Cole was the answer anyway, but now especially so, knowing what we know about Scherzer's circumstances.
What do you say, Doug? Can't hear you just yet. All right, we'll go to Julian while we get your mic set up. Jules, what do you say?
I'll say what Doug was probably going to say and say, yeah, Garrett Cole was the easy choice. It can't be that close here. One of these guys hasn't pitched in a month and is on the road, albeit against a bad lineup. One of these guys has been spectacular, averaging 28 DK points at home, completely healthy, and facing the Tigers here. Just, look at Verlander. I know the hot story is the Tigers pulling off the plus 430 upset. Verlander had 40 DraftKings points last night. He threw a complete game 2 hitter with 11 strikeouts. He dominated the Tigers. They just happened to hit 2 solo home runs on their only 2 hits, and the Astros only scored 1 run. The only way you can talk me into Scherzer here is a GPP contrarian play, but even so, if you're making 10 lineups, maybe I'll use Scherzer once or twice, have 20% exposure to him. This is Garrett Cole way too easily by a landslide.
Doug, let's try it again. Unanimous?
Totally unanimous. Maybe the more interesting question is what percentage should Cole be rostered in cash game? It should be 100%. So anything less than 100%, and you are getting great equity on the play. So because the rest of the pitching field is so far below him in terms of overall expectation and projections that it's really just kind of a joke. So it wouldn't be even if Scherzer had a full pitch count, just because of the win equity on the money line odds. I think that I'd easily go Cole. And now it's just a question of, if you thought that he was only 90%, then you probably should just put in more lineups because you're just getting so much EV on just how much better of a matchup he has than everybody else.
Freddie Freeman is 5,500 against Miami in Game 3 of that series. He had an incredible 37 DK points in Game 1, but a goose egg in Game 2. So, Julian, you rolling with Freeman or maybe looking at a guy like Jose Abreu, who's been very consistent of late, at least 16 fantasy points in each of his last 3 games, and he's only going to cost you 4,900.
Yeah, I mean, Abreu has a little bit of intrigue, but we talked about that game earlier, and all 3 of us like the under there. And Texas has a ground ball pitcher going for him. So I think this is a spot where Freeman, obviously 0 and 37 are 2 pretty opposite ends of the spectrum, but I'll take closer to the 37 side in terms of upside in this matchup against Alcantara. He has the opposite hand matchup, batting third as he usually does, at home where he's been better, where this Braves offense has been better all season, projected for just about 6 runs there. This is a really good spot for Freddie Freeman to hit a home run, and I'll pay a couple extra bucks to get him over a guy like Jose Abreu.
Doug, you want to pay a couple extra bucks for Freddie Freeman?
100%. He's having the best season of his career so far, which is really pretty impressive considering what he's already done. He's going to eclipse his home run mark. That's not new for a lot of players are going to do that this season, so it's not crazy outlier to be on pace for your most home runs. But this one, with the matchup with Alcantara, the Braves implied run line is pushing up towards 6, which you have to really like. Freeman also, too, just over the course of the season, we talked some yesterday about the variance around hitters, which is always going to be more than, let's say, pitchers. But even among the top overall DK points guys on the season, just raw points, Freeman is one of the more consistent guys on a game-to-game basis, like for coefficient of variation. So I think Freeman kind of a landslide for me here just because of the matchup, the run line, and really all the other factors.
Gary, and you going with these guys?
Yeah, look, I mean, Alcantara has struggled against left-handed bats, but I think in the grand scheme of things, if we're talking about this slate, I don't think I'm paying for either of these guys. I know that's kind of cheating, but like we just talked about the variance between batters and pitchers. I want Garrett Cole in my lineups, and if I'm paying for Garrett Cole, I'm not paying up at first base, especially with guys like, Jesus Aguilar. I know he's been dropped down to 7th in the Rays order tonight, but they're playing Baltimore. You go back to the start of July, the only 2 guys with a higher expected WOBA in all of baseball against right-handed pitching than Aguilar are Mike Trout and Yordan Alvarez. There's just way, way too many reasons to not pay up. Between these 2, sure, it's Freeman, but I'm not going to have exposure to either.
Okay, a couple of impressive rookies to choose from here as well. Doug, let's start with you. Would you rather have Yordan Alvarez, 5,800 against the Tigers, or you have Pete Alonso, of course, who's been incredible this year, for a really hot team at that, the Mets, 5,600 against the Indians?
In terms of overall lineups, I probably wouldn't play either just because I think they're probably both a little overpriced. But if choosing between one or the other, I definitely go Alvarez. He and Alonso are very, very similar in their in their overall rate stats this season. So if you just figure they're the same in a vacuum, then at that point you just need to look at who has the better pitching matchup, and it's clearly Alvarez against Zimmerman. It's to the point where it's really not even close. Zimmerman is just basically a gas can at this point. So I like Alvarez. I do think you're going to see the home run to fly ball ratio come down a little bit. It's pushing over 33%, which is a little bit unsustainable, although in new baseball, maybe it's not. But between the 2 guys, definitely give me Alvarez, but I don't know if I'm paying up for either in DFS tonight.
Gary, you inclined to lean the same way?
Yeah, I mean, again, probably not going to pay up for either, but it's Alvarez. Like I just mentioned, he's got the highest expected WOBA against right-handed pitching of any batter in baseball going back to the start of July. Now, Pete Alonso, I know at the start of the season, his splits were pretty drastic in favor of him facing left-handed pitching. That's almost reversed itself across the last 2 months. He's been fantastic against righties, but yeah, Jordan Zimmerman is the big X factor here, and if that's ever your tiebreaker, consider yourself lucky. It's Jordan Alvarez.
Jules, 3 for 3?
Yeah, I'm right where these guys are. The only problem is Garrett Cole has to be in your lineup, so I don't know if I'm going to have the money to spend on quite this big of a bat. But nothing bad to say about Pete Alonso. I said earlier that I like making a play on the Mets at minus 125. I think Alonso's bat could help them win that game. But Alvarez in way too good of a spot. Houston's got to have revenge on their mind after, normally a loss to a bad team when you're that far ahead in the division maybe doesn't do much. But when it kind of blows up the way it has about being one of the biggest favorites to ever lose in a baseball game, Houston might want to come out and usually there's not a narrative street in baseball, but score some runs in this game. And Alvarez is a guy in a perfect situation to do so. hitting fifth in an opposite-hand matchup against a pitcher that should get just smoked in this game. So, yeah, it's Alvarez for me if I can afford one.
Under 30, time for slate-approved picks. Julian, who's your lock?
Garrett Cole, no questions asked.
Doug?
Cole, but everyone's going to say that. I'll just go Atlanta stack. Freeman, Albus, Donaldson, whole top of the lineup. Even Hechavarria coming cheap. So I like stacking Braves all the way down.
Garion?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jesus Aguiar. I just like the price, 3.7.
Brought us home. All right, guys, that's a show. On behalf of Jessie, all of you, I'm Adam. Talk to you next time.